Okay, so I am live. Hi everyone and welcome to my channel, Hisame Artwork. Hope the sound and video are okay. I have a little banner there that says I have my microphone turned on, so if you can't hear me, let me know and I'll try and fix it some more. I had some issues before the stream started, so I'm not sure if the sound's okay, but hopefully it is. At least that's what I seem to be getting. So I am coloring page 70. Hi June, can you hear me okay? The sound is fine? Okay. So glad. How have you been? How's it going? I'm having a lovely, cool summer day. And, oh, here I'll put the dresser from another plant. What do you call cupboard? Yeah. I talk so much in English that now sometimes I forget words in Romanian and in English. And I can't tell if it's my age, but I don't think it's my age. I'm not that old. Yeah. I don't remember if I forgot words when I was in high school. I don't think I had much of a vocabulary then either way. Like mostly we talked about cartoons and TV shows and I was like, oh yeah, that was cool, that was nice, yeah, and I didn't need too many words to express how I was feeling. But now I try and discuss more ideas and kind of need more words for that. But I kind of understand some of my family members that were trilingual. Because they spoke Turkish, Tatar, and Romanian. And sometimes they would have like long pauses trying to remember words. I wonder how Anna does it. She has to speak uh, Italian, Spanish, and English for her work online because everybody talks in English online. There doesn't seem to be that much in the way of websites for Spanish speakers. I mean, at least I don't run into them. And I also asked Alexi and Anna, are there any Spanish comic book websites like Tapastic that I can go and share my translated version of Niels? And they couldn't think of one. and it's my understanding that there isn't much of an equivalent in Italian either. And Tapastic and Webtoons, I think they are Korean in origin, but I haven't seen any Korean version of the websites. I've only seen them in English. And I can't really blame them for making everything in English from the start. And maybe if there is a demand, they will do in their native language. Like I haven't translated my comics into Romanian, even though it would be easy to do that. Just because comic books are not something that are consumed much in my home country. I mean, I remember working for a company and they had events for kids, and I thought, oh, you know what would be cool, Mr. Bossman? What if we do a little library of comic books for kids? Because I had the French Institute next to me, and I used to go and sometimes read French comic books. And I just couldn't find anywhere to buy comics um, at that time, so that was like 7 years ago, and I couldn't find anywhere to buy comics for kids. They just weren't sold in bookshops or even online. They were very expensive. And I'm surprised there isn't much in the way of websites for Spanish speaker, considering how many they are and how Western they are. I mean, I can understand not having for Chinese people, because let's say, oh, you know, it's not something that they enjoy culturally. It's not in their history, just like in Romania. But the Spanish-speaking world is so big. I would have expected them to um, have more websites in Spanish for a whole bunch of things. Related to art, but I guess because a lot of those countries have economical problems, art is not that widespread available. Or entertainment of that kind. Because there were some YouTube channels and some articles online monitoring the production of anime in Japan in relation to the economic situation of the country. So every time there was a crisis and it took a dive, um, less anime was made, or if it was less, if there wasn't significantly less, the quality would be diminished. I mean, like you would have more static characters instead of, so they would look more like Hanna-Barbera, if you remember those cheap animations with Yogi Bear. So it'd be more like that and less like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where you have a lot of movement and you need to do a lot of research for it. And I was surprised how much of a pause DreamWorks has had um, over the years. Disney is just buying left and right and producing tons and tons of content, while DreamWorks, Blue Sky, um, they haven't done much compared to Disney. Like half of the films that you see on TV for kids are from Disney. Nobody else gets a chance to do much. And I'm kind of curious why there's such a big discrepancy between Disney and the other studios in terms of how much they can put out. And I don't know if it's just the more sources of revenue they have, because Disney has a huge merchandising source of money, and the theme parks, while the other studios don't seem to have anything they can fall on in case of hardship. And I think streaming services have really been chewing on their income as well, with cinemas becoming less and less desirable. Like, I haven't been to the cinema in months, and I used to go at least 3 times a month. It's just very uncomfortable and far, and gives me headaches here in the US to go at the cinema, that I just don't find any joy in it for the money that I'm paying. So I just stopped going. And I'll just stream something if I really want to see it. You know what? I'll leave it simple like this. I love how you drew Niels like he thinks he's off the hook. Researching for this comic, I was just surprised how many things they already had in that um, time. You're welcome, June. So as a kid, like anything that was before I was born, it was Stone Age. That was kind of my view. Like everything that was ever invented was recently to my birth, and before that, how did people even live? Oh, the tragedy. Um, but researching for this comic to see the things that I can show in the comic strips, I was just surprised how many things they already had. And also, a lot of those documentaries in History Channel, they often would say, "Oh, the Industrial Revolution, it changed the world, like things that have never been seen before, all of a sudden have been made possible, and people's lives were improved so significantly." And um, they were very poetic, I guess I could call it. And I did the page where Neil says, "Oh, it's not so bad to live in this century," and Marie says, "Well, Newton was well off, so he had access to water fairly easy." And then also looking back at when I visited my grandparents, they did not have running water in their house. They didn't have warm water in their house unless they did it themselves. They had to heat up the water. So they pretty much lived like Isaac Newton 300 years ago because they lived in the countryside. And they got used to it. I mean, they didn't even want to change. They just saw it as a hassle, not as a significant improvement in their lives. Like, oh, I have hot running water on my tap. Like, why would I need that? Nah, or oh, it would be nice, but it's too expensive, and I want to leave you something to inherit, so I'm not gonna get any hot water for myself. I'll save the money and you can have it after I pass away. So that was kind of the what we would say. But I would say like the most striking thing is how a lot of concepts were known since the ancient Greek times, and a whole bunch of stuff that they calculated, because for this comic I had to do research for the history of science as well, and when did they know about these things and how old were these notions? Like, can I mention this in dialogue? Was it a thing then? And they knew the earth was round for a long time. I mean, knew. They did calculations, and it seems like they were pretty sure about some of this stuff. They just didn't have the means to irrefutably prove it. I just kind of always thought that people weren't doing much, and then all of a sudden, in the 1800s, they had a technological boom, and that was like such a big difference. trying to see where I had Newton's chair to get the same colors. So I'm kind of looking at the pages. Was he sitting on a chair here? Yes, but it's not in frame. Which page was it? Aha, found it. I'd say the biggest shock to me was just how much math was developed over the millennia. Like, I just kind of assumed that, oh, you know, all of the all of the mathematics that we use today is so modern and recently developed, and that's not really the case. I would say it's more the case for chemistry and physics. I would say that chemistry really took off in the um, 1600s in Germany, and then started being much more researched in the UK in the 1800s as well. And that's why a lot of the elements in the periodic table have German sounding names. And of course the Russians as well. Mendeleev was Russian, or born in Russia. I'm not sure about this as his his ethnicity. But the mathematics is super old. Like the Indians and the Greeks were doing a lot of stuff, and then Chinese and Arabs joined the fun. And probably Egyptians, because they build a lot of stuff. But I don't usually see a lot of documentaries on Egyptian mathematics. Like, usually when you Google history of mathematics, a lot of documentaries are dedicated to how Arabs developed mathematics after the Dark Ages engulfed Europe. I wish they would do more on Chinese history. Like, so little of it reaches out here in the West. Sorry about that. Drink some water. But this is what I find really awesome about YouTube. A lot of people do a lot of little documentaries about a myriad of things, and then you can go on Wikipedia and research some more, and on Wikipedia you have links to where they got their information, so you can go and check out those things. So you can get a much better picture of what was going on. Niels doing the dishes I had in which chapter? I think in chapter 2. Nope. Maybe towards the end here. No, I think it was before he caught the fish. Come on, where's the page? Or was it after? Can't remember what's going on. Yep, there we go, found it. Like in my own comic. But there was another one where he was cleaning the floor. And I have less lighting change there so I can get the colors better. Yep, so he caught the fish. There we go. Only took 3 tries to find it. I don't remember if I sent you the link to that video about Kiki's delivery service being kind of a allegory, or could work as an allegory for the millennial starving artist. I mean, when I first read the title on that, I was like, what? It has to do with that, because Kiki's delivery service was made in the 80s. So it was definitely not that the intention for Miyazaki. I'm pretty sure that's not what he intended. But it's quite funny. I mean, she kind of made comparisons that it could work as a metaphor for that. That even though she has this great talent that she can fly, nobody really needs her skill, and she has to get another job to maintain her livelihood. And she gets so exhausted and frustrated that she starts losing her mojo. I've never had this issue that I lost my mojo, or I never had a writer's block in my life as far as I can remember. But I thought it was a funny comparison, and I mean, once you look at it from that way, it kind of becomes um, really funny. I mean, for me anyway, to look at it that way. And I think I can find the video. Um, Service starving millennial artist YouTube. Yeah, there we go. So that got my desire to watch the movie again last night also, because I always liked Kiki, but it's a pretty simple story, so I always thought, what did make me wanna rewatch that, and why did I like it so much? Because I don't remember much of the story. Um, but I remember that I liked it. Like so many of Miyazaki's films are so endearing and charming, and um, you want to rewatch them. And I don't know, as I got older, I wanted to rewatch Miyazaki films more than Disney films. And I think it's because he always had more of a adult take on these stories. I wouldn't say that they were very simple for, like, usually in Western um, media, they tend to think that for kids, oh, it's better to have like a simple, silly story. Like, I don't see them tackling much complicated stuff that um, you would see for in Asian cultures. And the Germans, I don't know, their stories are just super creepy and gory and scary. It's like all German fairy tales are like made in abyss. And I'm sure there are a lot of childish and silly anime stories, but you, because maybe because the volume is so large of cartoons coming out of Japan, you get more interesting ones as well. Because out of Romania, you don't get any interesting films whatsoever. The production is so low, and most of it is garbage. And even if there's something good, of good film in Romania, I've never heard of it, I've never seen it. Um, People that are older than me and have lived in Romania for a long time, like they would say certain films that they're great, but I tried to watch them. I thought they were horrible, boring, or something else, and I just never tried to watch again. And it's too bad, like some films they don't work at all ages. So maybe you need to be in a certain state of mind to appreciate certain films. Like a lot of people will say, "Oh, I thought that Ghost in the Shell was horrible and boring, but now that I'm an adult and a film critic, I love it." Sure, take care. And now I'm working on Marie. She is a cyborgy, so a cyborg corgi. So she was born a dog, and then she got robotic enhancements. Because who doesn't want a enhanced robot dog that is wise and patient and everything you could ever want from your dog? She's like the perfect dog. hearing some kids screaming outside. I don't know if you guys can hear it. It's hard to tell if they're having fun or not. Or maybe it was a cat. I can't tell. I was hearing some strange sounds from outside. Um, when I lived in a big city, I would hear sounds like these all the time, so it was normal. I would hear them and be, oh, it's my neighbors. I don't think anybody's dying. So, but here, because it happens so rare, kind of think twice. Maybe something is happening. Maybe I should call the police. And like you do get occasional weird situations. Like for example, me and my husband, we prefer to go and do our shopping later at night when um, it's less crowded, because we do have some supermarkets that are 24/7. But one night I was playing a video game and I really wanted to play some more of the story. But we still needed to do some shopping, and usually I go with my husband because he can't be trusted. He buys so much candy. But on that case, I decided, if he buys a bunch of candy again, well, he'll just have to eat it. It's he's a responsible adult. If he buys a ton of chocolate, he'll just have to eat it. And he went by himself. And on the way to the supermarket, a half-naked woman crossed the street. And he was just so confused about what was going on. And I couldn't believe it. And he said, "Well, you should have come with me, so uh, then you would have believed me." So yeah, even in small towns, weird stuff like this can happen. So he mostly lived in small towns his whole life, or in small cities. Um, I've been the one that lived in the biggest city in the country, and I hated every minute of it. I just never liked the crowds and the weird people you can run into when you return from work at very late hours. You can run into a whole bunch of people that you rather would not have to run into. Let's see, where was the fireplace? Fireplace. They had the two of them talking. But can't. I think I found it. So mantle here is gonna be dark. Okay, I will do the fireplace on a different layer so it's easier to do the shading. Fireplace. So that's in the back. I forgot what it's called. I think the mantle is the upper part here. I'm gonna turn Marie off just so I can see better what I'm doing. Okay, Marie. Not sure what color I should make those. I haven't seen a fireplace in a long time. I think they would be burnt. Maybe the ash won't be so pronounced. Dark, sorry. The cat here, I think I will remove it because it's the babysitter that's watching them usually. If I need it again, I can get it from another save on the drive. Michael Chen, so what's happening comic today? Hi Michael Chen, yes, today I am streaming how I'm coloring a comic from my comic book series Niels Feynman. Welcome to my channel, nice to have you here. And I need to plug in my tablet because the battery is done. So I am using a Wacom Intus Pro tablet, medium size. Find that that's the best size for me. Do you like comics, Michael? Anime, sure. Comic, not as much. I get you. I'm a bigger fan of cartoons as well, but I just don't have the budget to do cartoons. Hi June, welcome back. So until I can do video games and cartoons, it's comics and books for me. At least I can get the stories out. because I've always wanted to tell like big stories, not little short stories. I mean, I like Simon's Cat, but I would like to do more. Michael June is my friend. She did the line art. Michael, it's nice to meet you. Are you an artist as well? Good luck with your stream today. I need to hit the gym soon. Have exercise in a few days now. Okay. Good luck with that. I was in the digital animation program. Thank you for stopping by. Wonder what color should I do this what do you call it? Rug beater? Oh, I think this is the same rug beater Marie gave Erwin. I'm kind of remembering now. Because I did have him get a rug beater. And I'm trying to remember. Because I think it's a bit too big now. Or we made it too small in chapter 2. Like it should have been bigger. Yeah. I hope nobody will notice the color discrepancy. The size, sorry. The size discrepancy. Because like here it's kind of Irwin size and here it's Neil size, but it should have been adult size human from the start anyway. Could be another one, yeah, like Newton has a whole stash of rug beaters. And I have here tree color. And I'm gonna look at the other trees, what colors I've gave them. Because I gave them pretty fairly saturated colors, and now I'm gonna have to do a more midday sun, because it's like 2 o'clock, maybe 3. And I'll have to give it like super harsh shadows. And I'm gonna try and see one of the other trees outside. I mean, definitely the more complicated you do the comic, the more things you kind of have to keep in mind, like tree color continuity. Because mostly I worked in video games or in 2D animations where you had assets that you animated. You did them once and then you would cut them up into pieces and then animate those, and you didn't have to recolor everything all the time. And mostly we didn't care much about the colors for different times of the day. But after looking at a whole bunch of animes and kind of taking note of how they play with the lighting and the colors, I thought, I want to try and do that as well. See if I can change the mood from the colors. Kind of try and show heat in a frame, which is something that you can't actually feel when you read, but I'll try and do it. So I'm definitely putting a lot more thought into the relationship between the colors in this comic than I've ever had for anything that I've ever done. And I'm sure professionals have to do this a lot, and it's not me saying anything new, but it is kind of new for me. Oh no, not again, the train. The window's closed on the other side, maybe you will not hear it today. Let's see if I can get like the base color for the rug. I like it still has a bit of detection there, so I'll try and see if I can. Okay, now it's too small of a gap. I'll do it by hand. This actually kind of inspired me to go do my carpets yesterday. I have been meaning to clean them for a while, and yesterday I was working on this comic and thinking of the rug, and I thought, you know what? I should do what I preach, cleaning the rugs. And since we're living with rent, we have like little rugs that are a lot easier to move around, so I just picked it up and put it in the washing machine. Oh, hi, little John. How are you? Can you hear me okay? Let's see if he can hear me. If not, I will write to him in the chat. Doesn't seem to be responding. Either it's the lag. I'm doing good. How about you? Oh, okay, so he can hear me. Welcome to my channel. You sound found. Found. Maybe fine? Autocorrect. Like I write to my sister in our language and autocorrect because we both have our devices set to English, and often it will autocorrect what we say in our language to English. And we just get the weirdest phrases. So today I'm coloring a page from my comic book series, Niels Feynman's Time Traveling Adventures. Do you like comics? The story is about a little boy that can travel through time, and he goes to meet his hero. Where was it? Okay, see where I had Marie. Okay. Get color for her nose and her eyes. I do. I don't really have any though. Yeah, I have most of the comics that I read are online on Tapas, where I'm published. Mostly I like cartoons, but unfortunately I don't have the budget to do an animation with my story, so comics it is. And there are two of us working on the comics. So me and my friend June. And since we have some sciencey stuff in the comic as well, my husband consults me to make sure I don't write any nonsense. Well, too much nonsense because you can't actually travel back in time, but I usually ask him, like, what can I say that sounds plausible? Like, under what circumstances could it be more believable? And for example, you would have to have the conservation of mass because that's like a hard fastened rule. So if you would travel back in time, You would need to get some atoms from the past into the future so you'd have the same mass in the universe. So that's why they did in X-Men, they did that whole time traveling with the mind thing with Wolverine so that they wouldn't violate that law. Okay, and I have to get that laundry bucket from page, I forgot. Yeah, so my comic is science fiction, and I try to keep it hard science. Like, I have a talking cat and a talking dog, and they're not magical. Like, one of them is genetically modified, and the other one's a cyborg. So, yeah, I try to keep it sciencey. But it's really hard sometimes. I have to spend a lot of time to read up on stuff to see, like, was it possible? And fortunately for me, they had a lot of stuff in the 17th century that we have today, like pencils and paper and books and stuff like that. So it wasn't too hard to do this. And also, the Cambridge Library was very nice with me. Um, yeah, I like science fiction too. Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke are some of my favorites. Where's that bucket? Because I want to keep the colors the same. Because I showed the bucket in a previous page and I'm trying to find it again. Yep, there it is, page 45. That lonely bucket over there. So, yeah, now, like I said, I was surprised that they had a lot of stuff back then that we have today as well. But some things I will avoid, like the whole toilet debacle. Like, I was thinking, because my character has to clean the whole house, and I mean, usually they had to take out their number two in a bucket, and I don't really even know where I would send that. I mean, the Cambridge Library was very nice and helpful for me. I emailed them and I asked them about different buildings, how they looked back then, if I can find some accurate information about where buildings were and where they weren't. Like, for example, I had a scene taking place in a greenhouse, and I thought it was in a certain building that the medical university um, had built in order to grow herbs for their medicine. That they would teach students how to use different plants for different things. Like, for example, they didn't have aspirin back then, so they would give people willow bark and things like that. And that building didn't actually exist there at that time. It was actually a church there, and they later bought the land from the church in order to build the physicians' university and botanical garden. And so I had to change some things up. And fortunately, the like I said, the Cambridge University Library was very nice with me and helped me do my research, which I thought was really awesome of them. And I'm also lucky that, like, a lot of things in And Cambridge stayed the same for the past 400 years or 500 years. And a lot of the buildings were the same, so I could actually use Google Maps to kind of determine where my characters would be going and how the buildings would be looking. And just always having reference images to use. Where was that? There we go. I'm gonna draw the lawn here. Color it, sorry. It's already drawn. Choose a lighter color for the... No, don't freeze, don't crash. Okay, it just was a hard save. My computer, it's struggling to stream and save at the same time and draw. I'm gonna have them kind of like at the edge of a forest or something like that. They did have a little park next to the university. I don't think much of it is left now. It's very unclear to me, but they definitely had a lot more forested woodland type of areas there that are housing now. Fields for growing wheat or something like that. Now the character isn't very happy about what's going on because he wanted to do some fun stuff and his cat ran off to do parkour. And he's stuck doing the dishes and cleaning. But he's gonna get into trouble soon because, I mean, I remember how it was for me when I was a kid. Like, I didn't want to do any chores. I would rather run off and do something else, and then I would get into trouble. Like, I would fall off of something or get stuck somewhere. My uncle loves to tell a story about how when I was a kid, I thought it would be really fun to go up a what do you call it? A hay mound. Like when you finish cutting the hay for winter, you put it on those wooden things. And it got pretty tall, and I thought it would be such a fun idea to climb on top of it. And then I got scared because it was really high up and I couldn't get down, so he had to go up and get me. But all he had was a very rickety ladder, and at that point I was a single child, so It was his eldest sister's only child stuck up that hay mound. And he panicked so much because he had to kind of look after me because he was the only adult around. And here was her only child stuck up there, and he had to go and rescue me like you rescue a cat stuck in a tree. And he did not find that funny at all because he was afraid that by the time he would get up there, I would slip and fall and die. And also, when we got down, the rickety ladder was shaking, and he was afraid that we were both gonna fall and die. So after we got down, he said, "You know, I'm gonna give you a spanking because what you did was very wrong." And I was like, "No." And then he gave me a spanking, and then I called him a stupid head or something like that. And he just loves to tell that story. And now, as an adult, I find it funny as well. But when I was a kid, I was like, "Stop telling it. You're a horrible uncle." So fortunately, I never had to watch over big kids. Like, whenever I had to babysit, I would only have to babysit like babies, and they didn't go anywhere. So that was easy. I just have to see if they haven't um, rolled over and are suffocating. Like, that was most I had to do. And like, oh, you're still alive? Okay, good, we're good. And well, for my brother and sister, like, I was like, oh, they're siblings. I wasn't too careful about them. Like, the main objective was not to lose them. Like, they're still inside, okay. I left the house with two kids. I have to return with two kids. But this kind of reminds me of those jokes about bad dads. Like, in my country, you have a lot of jokes about the men not being very attentive to the kids. Like, they would joke about, oh, the traditional family is composed of the mother and the grandmother. And so you'd have a lot of jokes like the father comes home with a kid, and the wife yells at him, "Ah, it's not our kid, take him back." And it's like, "It's okay, I'll take him back tomorrow. Like, I got him from school, we'll um, take him back to school tomorrow." And clothing. I think the bucket should have been a lot bigger now that I think about it. Hmm. I think I will erase everything, to be honest. and the line art. And this is what I love about Clip Studio Paint. It's so easy to erase stuff. And I'm gonna get the line art and the color from here. And again, I love the fact that you can select and affect 2 layers. You cannot do this in Photoshop. Okay. But where's my color? Oh, it's left behind. I didn't select properly. Okay. Okay, now 2 of them are selected. And there we go. And I'll take the tip off of that, put a mask on it. Let's see, make another layer. Laundry bucket. And I can put a mask on it now. It just make my life easier. And I have to draw with black. But what is selected? Yeah, why doesn't it want to erase? I put the mask and I'm drawing with black. Some of the things I'm not clear about in this program, why they don't work. Like, do I have to use the eraser in this one? I think so. So I don't use the brush like I use in Photoshop, I use the eraser. And it's 4:30. Hope I can get all the base colors by then. I'm at panel 6 and we have 8 panels. I think I should be able to get it. Now whenever I resize, this bleeding of the colors pretty strange. I don't know why that happens. It doesn't seem to resize properly. Will this be your first comic? Um, I did a smaller one, only 40 pages, I think. Not sure, I'm trying to remember. Let's see here. So I have a bunch of other booklets, but a story. Oh, only 28 pages. So this would be my first comic, which was very simple because it was kind of a test run and I did it all by myself, and I try to post a new page every week. No, this one. Gave you the wrong link. This is the right link. Because it's a lot of work to do a comic. So I have a friend now that helps me, because otherwise, I tried to do this comic with Niels before, but it was just so hard to put a new page out every week, and so the art style suffered because I would have to use Illustrator to kind of try and just do a lot of copy paste so that I could finish all of the panels in a week, color and line art. Because I find that the black and white comics are pretty sad. A friend of mine, she's working alone on her comic and would work and job, and family and stuff like that. So she barely has time to do her comic, and it's just black and white. And if you're doing slice of life, which doesn't have much detail, like for example, Gamer Cat or Sarah Scribbles, they're not very detailed, so you can do one page every week, and even then, they have burnouts. Like Gamer Cat, the Gamer Cat author had a meltdown, and she needed to take a break of 3 months to uh, get back together again. And also, my friend that's been working by herself, she also had to take breaks because she just got exhausted. And also, it can be very tiring to do the same thing every year for weeks and weeks on end. While I'm splitting the work between me and my friend, it's a lot more manageable. So she does the line art and I do everything else, and also she keeps me on schedule. Because you get sick, you get tired, things happen, and you can say, oh, I can do this next week, or I can do this tomorrow, and then you end up trying to finish quickly the page before the publishing deadline that you set for yourself, and it can be hard to manage. So if you have someone to split the workload with, it's very beneficial, um, just from maintaining a schedule and to make sure that I'm always on schedule. Also, thank you, June, so much for your help. Also, I set this live stream for myself so that I make sure that I do the pages even if I'm not feeling very well, because, oh, my back hurts, or my leg hurts, or I'm tired, or I just ate and I don't feel like it. Because I have the live stream scheduled, I ignore whatever discomfort I might be feeling, and like, I have to do this. I promised I would do this. And it does happen sometimes that I really don't feel well and I can't stream more than an hour. and it's okay. It's if it's really serious, I will stop. Like I don't want to get really sick. But yeah, it's a real bummer, and I mean I see even if you're a famous artist and you have a lot of people waiting on you, usually the financial rewards are not that great. I mean, I look at GamerCat, his author, and she's doing on Patreon a lot better than many people there. Where she has $800 every month in donations just on Patreon, and she has merchandise shops and goes to events and everything else. But considering the fact that she lives in the USA, $800, it's I think it's less than minimum wage in some of the states. The states that do have minimum wage, and you have like, let's say, I don't know, you work 40 hours a week for 4 weeks, and then you have, let's say, $15 in the US. The minimum wage is set by hour, not by month. So let's say you have, I don't know, $10 might be minimum wage, so 10 times 40 is 400. No, minimum wage would be 1,600, but I think that's without taxes, so then you have to pay insurance and other things that are not included in that salary. I'm not sure exactly. But anyway, like 800, it's like just a rough estimate, is less than minimum wage for sure. And she has to go to Comic Cons and a bunch of other stuff, so I do think that she still has a full time job aside from doing GamerCat. And she would be considered one of the more famous artists because she has like millions of followers. And she's barely making a living, so it's not great for her. And I can see why she had a burnout. Minimum wage is different depending on where you live. In the USA, it's 7.25 an hour most places, then some have 10 to 15 as minimum wage. Yeah, I've heard in some places it's like really bad, like in Alabama. Other places don't even have minimum wage. I think in Arkansas, people voted against having a statewide minimum wage. So there is no minimum wage there. And considering how much rent or housing and heat and everything and electricity, like you cannot live on $800 in my opinion, unless you're living with your parents and then they give you food and shelter. Alabama. Yeah, I saw some news with people protesting at a Nissan factory or something like that. that they were poorly paid. I'm in Michigan now, so I do follow the news, but not too much because I'm European, so I'm more interested in the news back home. Now, question is, was this washboard made out of metal or wood? June, what did you use as reference? Washboard, UK, medieval. Let's see, can I see a picture of one? Walmart has $11 minimum wage though, and some big cities have 10 as their minimum wage. Also, it can be by city as well, not just by. I thought it was if it's a statewide thing, then. I was looking at the washboard, if the thing in the middle was metal, because I'm not sure, I've never used one. If it was metal or wood. Because I see some of them are wooden, but I'm not sure what the standard was. I think wood or stone. Oh, stone. Okay. Uh, then I will make it stone, because I mean this one looks like stone. I think the middle is metal. My grandparents had one. Yeah, but your grandparents were uh 20th century and American. So I think they might have used something differently in the UK in the 1600s. So I think might have been wood or stone. I didn't even I didn't even know you could make it out of stone. But I think it would be like too heavy for Niels. Yeah, metal gets rust. It's not a best idea. I mean, with galvanized metal, maybe it's better. But they didn't have galvanized metal in the 16th century, so you're right. I will make it wood. Let me just make it the same as that one so it's clear it's made out of wood. Yeah, nowadays you might have metal, maybe, if you're trying to live vintagely. But I don't see any person wanting to live like this if they had a choice. Doing the laundry is such a pain. I have enough fun doing the dishes every day. Let's see, how did that chest look like? Because I had it colored already. Oh, so I decided on the whole thing to be metal? Yeah, I think so. Now I'm kind of thinking maybe I should have added a bit of rust since it wasn't a shiny new chest. I don't know. Kind of thinking it's too brand new. No. How do you write a safe in English? Chest. Okay, so I decided on this one. I think it might have been painted over to be black. But this one looks so depressing. It's not shiny or colorful. I'll leave it bronzy like this. Looks less bad. Because a lot of the chests that I've seen, and I remember when I did research for this to see how it look like, um, they were all black. And my comic is not gritty like that, so I want it to be colorful. Because also when people are reading this online, um, it's kind of hard to see on the mobile phone sometimes, so I need to have a lot of contrast. Like if you remember those old comics with Superman and Batman, they were on purpose ridiculously colorful. Just so even in the worst printing houses, they could still make the images understandable what they are through the high contrast that they had. I mean, my preference is to do like super detailed and delicate drawings and with little contrast. I mean, that's my first inclination, but I try and force myself to get a lot of contrast and color variations in the illustrations because I know how they'll look in a thumbnail and how people will just gloss over it because they see it and I'm like, okay, so that's just a brown blob. I'm not gonna read this, but if they can tell that it's a corgi and a kitty cat and some other colorful stuff in there, maybe they'll click on my comic and read it. That's the hope, anyway. The color, there we go. I just always find it hilarious how I made Newton a dog person and he just doesn't like cats. Because I always find it funny people that don't like cats and how they shoot them away. Like I had a friend that she hated cats so much that when we went to Greece together and there were a bunch of stray cats just meowing under the window, um, she couldn't eat because she thought they were dirty animals, and she just couldn't enjoy her meal because she was afraid that one of their hairs would be blown by the wind inside and get in her food. And she just found the idea horrible and couldn't eat. And funny enough, the other friend, she didn't seem to have anything wrong with cats, but she secretly hated roaches very badly. And at one point, we were sitting outside and at night, and we went out to eat, and just this huge, big, fat roach just scurried on the street because you had the tables on the street. So this was in Greece. And the bugger just scurried down there, minding his own business. And when she saw him, she just flipped. Like, she screamed and she cried, and it was just. I think she was like super afraid of roaches. I mean, I hate them as well, and I will jump when I see something black with the corner of my eye moving on the ground. I'm like, aha, roach. And I turn around quickly so that I can catch it and destroy it before it lays eggs. So I do have like these involuntary reactions, like my spine completely bypasses my brain. Like I don't mean to uh like straighten my back completely like whenever I see something a little dark creature. And often enough it's a spider here in Michigan because we don't have roaches here. Well, they Americans. Like one of the things I love about Michigan is that there are no roaches up here. But I've had so much to deal with them back home that this is just an involuntary reaction I cannot control. Uh, and often enough, it's a spider. I'm like, oh, okay, and I'll go pick it up and uh, put it outside if it's warm outside. If it's not, I'll just leave it alone. Yeah, it's too cold for them. The ground freezes, and so they can't lay any nests outside in the soil. And the population density here is very low, and the houses are pretty separate from each other. So maybe in Detroit, where you have a lot of apartment blocks that stay warm throughout the winter, maybe they might have roaches, but not here where I am, which is really awesome because I had to live with them for so long and I just really hate them. They're so gross and they get everywhere, like absolutely everywhere. Like I had them in my bed, in my mouth, and like, ugh, hate roaches. So I can definitely understand why she reacted that way. It just seemed very strange that her reaction was just so much stronger than mine, and she couldn't control herself. Like she started crying like right in the middle of the street. Like was the first time I ever saw her cry. Like we had hard exams and a whole bunch of other stuff, and like she wasn't the person that would cry over nothing, but she just couldn't control herself, and like crying and big old tears because she saw a roach. Like it was um 5 meters away from her. Like wasn't that it climbed on her or did anything to her. It was just like the roach was crossing the street minding its own business, and she just yelled and cried. So I was like, at first I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? But then I thought, oh, poor thing. You have not been through what I've been, but Because she was, her family was a bit fancy, so I doubt that they ever had to, the roach problems that I had, like have the walls completely covered with roaches or just have waves and waves of roaches come in. And I don't think she ever had roaches in her bed and on her face. But still, she was just, ah. And I kind of feel bad for her because obviously it wasn't a comfortable situation for her. Like people were crossing on the street and were looking at her like, oh, crazy tourists. Like, why is she crying? Okay, let's see, new pages. The hallway. I haven't drawn it since chapter 2. Colored it. I keep saying draw, but I colored it. I okay, the door here. I do not miss roaches. Like the winters are just so long and horrible here, but whenever I remember that in hot places you have roaches, suddenly I don't feel so bad about the winters here. Yeah, it's downstairs outside, on the hallway. Cause upstairs, it's kind of the second floor, and there isn't any hallway to the second floor. If you remember, I mean, I don't know. I'm checking now to see that I'm not telling you nonsense. Cause I did the house design, but I'm trying to remember. Uh, let's see. Yeah, so upstairs, the cat lady's apartment is bigger. So she has the area of the hallway as her house. So it's just a inner staircase that goes right up to the attic. And here I have to put the cat portraits painting, so I'm gonna do that. So all of these paintings, I have to put them there. Oh, okay, so it's 5 o'clock. I'm gonna end the stream here. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for those that come to visit. And I'm always happy to hear from you guys, and also those of you that will be watching the recording after this. Thank you so much for all your support and everything, and see you next time, which is gonna be Saturday morning for here for me for US, and afternoon in Europe. And I'm probably gonna be drawing some fan art for a friend of mine. His comic is about a cute little fox, and I've already done the sketch, and I'll be inking and coloring that illustration. So bye bye everyone. This is probably what I'm gonna be drawing Saturday morning. Thank you for watching, and see you then. Take care everyone.